We're going to be talking about the Amazon original film, Vast of Night. It says it actually came out in 2019, but I just recently watched it. It felt pretty new to me. But anyhow, it is a drama, mystery, science fiction kind of a film. I'm going to read the synopsis here real quick and just a little bit about it, and then we'll actually discuss the film. In the twilight of the 1950s, on one fateful night in New Mexico, young switchboard operator Faye and charismatic radio DJ Everett discover a strange audio frequency that could change their small town and the future forever. So this is directed by Andrew Patterson. The writers are Andrew Patterson and Craig Sanger. The cast is mostly a lot of young actors I'm not too terribly familiar with, but Sierra McCormick, Jake Horowitz, Gail Cronier, I've actually seen her in some things. But anyhow, this is an Amazon original film. This was actually suggested. I think Bobby Chambers suggested this last episode, didn't he?
Yes, that's correct. So this is a suggestion from the Rogues Gallery. And as I've mentioned, we are always open to the Rogues Gallery making suggestions on films, television shows, comics, whatever it is you guys want us to review.
And this is a perfect example because this is exactly what we did. We took that suggestion and we ran with it. So let's see. We're going to start off with our overall impressions of Vast of Night. I was honestly slightly distracted when I was watching this because of the big announcement, the whole video I'll be making on the next episode. I thought the production values were kind of interesting. I thought it was a little talky at times, if that's such a thing. But I don't mind dialogue and I don't mind dramas. Overall impressions was I thought it was pretty well put together. But I'm going to be honest with you. I was slightly distracted. So I don't want to be too harsh on the film. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was interesting. I really actually want to watch it again because I felt kind of bad. I was kind of slightly distracted when I was trying to watch the film. But what like I said, it looked interesting, and I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought the young cast was interesting and charismatic for sure. I really liked the actress who played Faye Cocker. I really enjoyed, too, a lot of the 1950s tech. I mean, I felt like they focused on it a little bit too much at times, but I really loved it, like the switchboard operator, a lot of the stuff they were doing with recording things on microphone and reel-to-reel, audio, and all that stuff was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. But my overall impression of it is I thought it was interesting. And like I said, I want to watch it again where I can sit down and focus on it a little bit more. When we roll out what I've been working on here, you'll understand why I was so distracted. But anyhow, no, it was an interesting film. So tell me, Eric, what were your initial overall impressions of Vast of Night?
Well, giving credit again where credit is due, Bobby Chambers, he does say he's happy to see we checked it out. And Bobby, I'm happy you suggested it. One of the hurdles to doing this, by the way, was that I did not have Amazon Prime. So I just want to put that out there that now I do have Amazon Prime. So if folks out there do want to recommend something from Amazon Prime, let me know, because both Dave and I have it. And that's kind of one of the issues with content that we review. We both either have to possess the movie physically or we both have to have access to that particular streaming service. So at least for a month, I am now committed to Amazon Prime. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And thanks, Bobby Chambers, again, for recommending this. Now, it's interesting because I didn't go into this with a clean slate. Actually, Doomcock, who some of you folks may or may not be familiar with, he actually was the first person that actually called this movie to my attention at all. And that was actually prior to Bobby's post when he said that maybe we want to consider checking this out. And he was super, super critical of this movie. Like, he basically said it was trash. So I did go into this movie with very low expectations. I always take Doomcock with a grain of salt. I do like a lot of his content. I think he's incredibly articulate, but he's also very divisive, and he's also very, very critical. And sometimes I would say just downright negative. So I take his opinion with a grain of salt. So I didn't go into this unbiased. I went in with very low expectations. I kind of thought the movie was going to stink because of what Doomcock said. And I think even Bobby mentioned that he thought it was a very uneven film. And because I had such low expectations, I actually enjoyed this film quite a bit, I have to say. You hit the nail right on the head, Dave. I've always kind of said that I'm an analog guy in a digital world. And I'm saying that when I'm sitting here on my computer and I can figure computers out. I'm not like completely not tech savvy, but I love analog tech. I like vacuum tubes. I used to be in a band. That's why I call myself Bass God 14. I used to play bass guitar in a band. That's where the name comes from. That's why I like to go by that. That was basically the first big semi-successful, I would say. That's what I would term it as, semi-successful creative endeavor. I actually did an independent comic book before I did music, but my first comic book was a complete and total flop. My band actually got fairly popular, even at work and things like that. We had like a little following. We used to do concerts, and we actually, we're doing pretty good. We actually made some pretty good demos and all that kind of stuff. And so I still cling to that, to the bass god thing. But because of that, because of my experience with music, I love things like mixing boards, and I love things like, just seeing those plugs, you know what I mean? Those like the quarter-inch plugs that you use. Same with a guitar, like you were talking about the switchboard. I love that sort of analog tech, you know what I mean? That old school tech, the reel-to-reel machines, those old style microphones, you know what I mean? Like I love all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny because we call ourselves the Retro Rogues, and this is a true retro film. This is a modern film that was made in 2019, as Dave mentioned, but the subject matter is absolutely 100% retro. It's supposed to be taking place in the late 1950s, and I think it actually does a pretty good like picture of that time. I wish my dad was in better health because my dad is like 82 years old and he grew up during this time. He was a teenager. I think he graduated in 54 from high school, and I wish I could kind of show it to him and see. Well, what do you think, Dad? Do you think that things were really like that? Do you think that's a good reflection of that era? Granted, my father grew up on the East Coast. He didn't grow up in this. This is supposed to take place in New Mexico. It was filmed in Texas, but supposed to take place in a small town in New Mexico. I'd be like, what do you think? Do you think this is a good representation of the way things were back then? Because I thought it was fascinating in that regard. I guess I kind of really dig period pieces. And it's my understanding, although they call this an Amazon original, I could be wrong, but I think because it said Slam Dance at the end, so I think this was an independent film. I don't think Amazon originally commissioned this. I could be wrong. I should have done some more research on that, but I noticed that the ending credits, because I watched the credits the whole way through, that it said Slam Dance, and so I'm wondering if I think this was an independent film that got into Slam Dance, and then Amazon acquired it. That's my guess. I don't know that for sure, but I've heard this spoken of as an independent film. So I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure if Amazon actually commissioned this or approved it beforehand, or if these independent filmmakers went ahead and made this film, and then got it sold at a film festival. Slam Dance being considered sort of a major film festival. But I actually enjoyed it, and I kind of have Doomcock to thank for it, just because he gave me such low expectations of the film, and I thought it was going to be complete and utter garbage. Oh, and Jane is in the house, Dave, and she says, "Hey guys."
Hi, Mom. So I was just looking into it, and yeah, this did actually premiere at the 2019 Slam Dance Film Festival. So as far as I could tell, this does appear to have actually been like an indie film that Amazon acquired. So that's interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I saw it, and overall, well, we should get into the spoiler reviews before I get too far into it. But like I said, I was slightly distracted when I watched it. I liked what I saw, and I love, like I said, like the old school tech. And then this actress, like I said, a lot of the performances I found very, very charismatic. If I had the money to do a Red Skirts film, I would hire her to play Mary in a heartbeat.
Maybe we can look into that, Dave.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. But no, she, like I said, it just overall, I enjoyed it. I was one of those things, because I was distracted. I was like going, okay, I've got to watch this again. And that's the big thing. It kind of harkened back to, do you remember Project Blue Book? Not the newer one, but the original show.
No,
from
I
back
never
in the
watched
day.
that. I never was into that ones. I never watched it. Sorry.
All right. Well, back in the day when I was a kid growing up, they had a show. I think it was called Project Blue Book, and it was about the Air Force investigating people's reports of, sort of alien spacecraft and that kind
I'm
of thing.
familiar with the real Project Blue Book, by the way.
Oh,
Just
okay. All right.
the
Okay.
TV show. I'm
Oh,
completely familiar with the real Project Blue Book. So
I'm talking about the actual the television show, not the real Project Blue Book, because there are moments of this that reminded me of that, and then obviously there's elements that reminded me of Outer Limits or even Twilight Zone because of the setup. But
oh, come
we
on.
should,
This was a Twilight Zone ripoff. I mean, that's exactly what the setup was. They even imitated Rod Serling's voice almost precisely. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I guess we'll go ahead. Let's get into some spoiler talk about it. But overall impressions, it sounds like your overall impression, it was positive. My overall impression was positive. So, are we good to just get into doing some spoiler talk?
Well, let's let Bobby kind of lead us in because he's
All
kind of
right.
hitting the nail right on the head. He says, I love the buildup and thought the 1950s tech was great. A lot of the reviews flip-flopped on the ending, which is where I struggled. And I could definitely see that.